Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Mike Show. Today we have a guest who is a writer, producer, and YouTuber known for her YouTube channel called The Morbid Zoo. The Morbid Zoo is a channel that explores the wild, worrisome, and weird across the media environment. I'm excited to sit down with her and talk about her YouTube channel, her processes, and what else she has in store. Please welcome Mariana Colin. I just splashed my nose with coffee. Cool. Good start. Good start. Wiping it on my pillow because it's the only thing I have close to me. Sweet.
I mean, I think that right there is the new media thing. You know, I'm sitting here in my jammy pants, like snuggled into my little computer chair.
Yeah, it looks really comfy. I see your little cat tower in the back. It's very cozy aesthetic. Are you missing Los Angeles?
Yeah, I am. I am. I'm like it's getting a little chilly outside. I'm already like having the urge to hibernate. I'm gonna try and move out there this winter, I think.
That's awesome. That's great. So, first thing I want to talk about is your origin story. I want to know a little bit about like how you transitioned from doing like academia and then decided to turn that into a YouTube channel.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I feel like academia wasn't really a choice for me. Like I started college straight into the film studies major because I knew that that's what I cared about, you know, and that's what I loved, and that's what I wanted to think about for the rest of my life. The problem was that I hate being on set. I hate it so much that I didn't want to. For a while, I thought I wanted to act, but I knew I didn't want to direct. I didn't want to do the PA thing, and I wasn't done learning, you know? Like I wanted to sort of, I don't know, to the degree that academia gives you the freedom to kind of go where you want, think about what you want, read what you want, and direct your own education outside of what society at large considers like, you know, valuable, quote, quote, quote. That sounded more appealing to me than trying to go straight into the industry and, you know, just get coffee for people who get coffee. That didn't sound appealing to me. But the problem with academia is that nobody sees it. You know, like there's a huge accessibility problem with academia that like you have all this freedom and you have all this like you're training yourself to sort of see through the bullshit of society. I don't know how if I'm allowed to curse on this.
Oh, you're allowed to say whatever. We have no censorship. We'll try not to talk about like Andrew Tate, but that's pretty much it.
It's a free speech zone here. So like, you know, the really great thing about academia and that kind of study decoupled with sort of capitalist ideologies about, you know, what is valuable and what's worth people's time is great, but nobody sees it. You write these papers and, you know, maybe they get published in some kind of journal that nobody reads, or people just like mine for quotes for their own research. You know, it's just like this weird feedback loop where it's just academics talking to other academics and nobody who actually would probably benefit from those ideas actually gets exposed to them. It's just, you know, the sort of archaic nature of how academia is structured. So in my master's program, those were the years where like the video essay boom, I guess, sort of happened, where like every famous painting was making all these videos, and then, you know, Lindsay Ellis and Folding Ideas and all these people who I thought, you know, were making really good academic level arguments and analysis, and then, you know, just putting it on the internet for all to see and making a weird sort of career that way through Patreon and sort of direct support from, you know, this audience that is there that wants that kind of cultural insight that you don't really get through just sort of daily life engaging with media on a casual level. So I built my channel around that kind of analysis, specifically about movie monsters. And so I, you know, put together a series of video essays analyzing movie monsters, and that's how I submitted my master. After that, I had to figure out, what am I going to do with this channel? What is it? What would its position be in academia? Does it have a position in academia? Like, what do I do? And I still haven't decided. Like, I've branched out a little more to sort of, social commentary, and as my academic study, moves toward more like mass communication, social media, and less about textual analysis, like, whatever. I'm trying to make things that interest me and make me happy and that I think are important. And I hope that the voice will just kind of build on its own and become something that, I'm not really in a position to see right now. That's the hope.
When you decided to do this YouTube channel as your master's thesis, was the reaction of like your professors and peers in the academic world? Like,
they loved it. I mean, all my professors were super boomers, so they just didn't really know what to do with that idea and how to fit it into their image of what academia is supposed to look like. Their initial question about it was that, like, yeah, this is great and everything, you're making really good arguments, but like, how are you going to peer review this? And that's an issue, like I'm not really sure you can, unless there's, unless academia like restructures itself to be more new media friendly.
Right.
I don't know.
Can you explain a little bit about that? Because I don't really, I'm a non-academic guy. What does peer review mean?
Yeah.
Does that just mean like someone reads over it and like fact checks, or what is that?
Yeah, basically. So basically how peer review works for academia, and the reason there is at least an assumption of like research quality in academia is that like you don't just say whatever. Like, that's what academics do. I think that people have this misunderstanding of academics and professors and Ph.D.s as just like, you did all your research and now all your future research is just like kind of pulled out of your ass, like you can just say whatever. You can't. No, like the way that publishing works in academia is you write papers, you send them to journals, and then those journals have a team of readers, other professors, other academics who go over it and figure out, whether it's a good fit for that journal, whether it's a good fit for, the journal as a whole. So just like kind of really sort of economic questions, but also like, is this substantiated? Is it, well thought out? Like, is it citing the right people? Is it relevant to, where the research is right now? And like, there are issues with peer review for sure. Increasingly issues with peer review that like, it's kind of a joke within academia that like your reviewers won't read your work, or like they'll just skim it and give you completely useless feedback. Among female researchers, it's kind of a common joke for your reviewer to tell you, I think you'd really benefit from reading this person, and that person is you. Like, they're telling you to cite yourself and read your own research because they don't,
because they didn't check to see what the author of this article was. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah. I'd prefer there to be some kind of peer review process on YouTube, but to be honest, like, I have so little faith in the way academia is structured right now that that just doesn't seem like enough of a reason to ignore an outlet that I'm certain that more people have encountered my ideas through YouTube than most of my department combined. That's cool, but it's also a little scary, because just like anybody can post whatever they want on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think academia has to really contend with that, that like there are these people on YouTube who are making really well-produced content, that is appealing to people's desire to see something entertaining that makes them feel very smart and very important. And academic work often does not provide that.
Right.
I'm not saying it should necessarily, but I think there is a kind of a real danger to the integrity of academic ideas that new media introduces. That's kind of the existential crisis I'm in about it right now. Like, what do you do with these ideas given the communication outlets that we have, which are so imperfect in every direction?
Right. So would there not be a way with these YouTube videos to like, because you write video essays, so you have like, I assume, an essay, like a written thing that you're reading from, to have someone peer review that before you film it?
Yeah, I think that's probably how it would go. Especially with film studies stuff, like, I think it's just a matter of time before academia adopts it in earnest, because it makes so much more sense to analyze film using film instead of just like trying to, you lose something phenomenologically if you just like describe with words what's happening. It's much better to sort of, acknowledge that in film we're talking about, feelings and affect, and it's not inappropriate to use feelings and affect when you're talking about it,
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before academia acknowledges that and sets up some kind of framework to process video essays the same way that you would process any other academic work. But then, even within that, like, there's also this additional issue of like, okay, but if you're making a video essay, it has to be hosted somewhere, and where it's hosted is, YouTube. It's a corporation. It's a company, and how do you as a university sort of reconcile the idea that some people's work might be affected in one way or another based on what platform they're using? That's another thing that I just don't know what to do about. Like it's so up in the air what's going to happen with social media and how it's going to construct our world in the future that it's almost not worth thinking about because, it's just gonna, it'll paralyze you.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's like there's so many moving parts that it's impossible to predict. Are there other people in your world, or have you seen anyone else doing something like this where they're trying to take their academic research and do it on YouTube?
I'm trying to think hard about it because I don't want to assume that people aren't, but because that's kind of the dominant feeling that I get, that no, people don't typically do this.
Because I've never seen anyone try to do doctoral theses on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, people certainly do academic level work for sure. It's selfishly because I put a lot of work into into my academic experiences. Like, I want people to know that this isn't I'm just talking. Like, this is I've thought very hard about this, and I've spent years and years studying, which, again, like being female online, you get a lot of suspicion from men who want to come and tell you all about your research, and that you should do it this way or that way instead, and oh, you're not thinking about this, so when you obviously are, yeah, but it's just that YouTube just doesn't have and society at large, I think right now it's sort of a fact of the way our culture is running that people don't really value academic credentials as such. And I'm not saying they should necessarily. I know a lot of idiotic PhDs, having a PhD doesn't necessarily make you smarter than anybody else, but it does, all it means is that you've thought about it really hard, you've thought about it so hard that it's your job now. And I think that should count for something,
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It makes me think of when I first moved out here. On my resume, I had my university and my GPA on my resume. It wasn't a big part of it, but it was just a little paragraph in the corner and then all my film credits. And the person I was working for told me that I should take off my education because she was like, people will either be threatened by it because they think you're being snooty about it, or they just won't care about it. And I was like, okay, I guess. It's very, very interesting how there's this line between the academic world and the film world, and I think it's cool that you're trying to bridge that. You're trailblazing path for.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit disturbing that anybody would think that having an education would be a bad thing or like a snobby thing. Like, what, are you kidding me? Like, everybody in the class goes to college, you know? Like, that's kind of considered a cultural standard to go to college. Why wouldn't you, why wouldn't you want to be proud of your accomplishments there or the things that you learned that you wouldn't have been, in a position to learn otherwise? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So when you first started posting these videos, was your master thesis like a group of videos or was it just one video?
It was a group of them. I think it was 5, I want to say. The first 5 I posted, I think, is what I submitted officially for the thesis. And then I had like a written addendum that was like 50 pages long or something. And that's how I like sort of paired the two. So, the outward facing part of that project is on YouTube. But, I think like at the university, I did this for, the appendix is what is in the university library.
Oh, cool.
And that's like another weird sort of factor of doing video essays as anything associated with a university institution, that like universities don't really have the infrastructure to house new media, or to archive it in any way that's consistent and reliable. I foresee a lot of servers in a lot of university libraries in the future, if they want to keep up with this kind of thing,
Right. Yeah, and that to me that seems like kind of a no-brainer. Like, so when you posted these, I know you said a lot of the people in your academic world were like really stoked on it because they're all boomers and like to them this is like magic. What was some of the like general reaction like of people just on YouTube? Like, were you getting good responses? Was it like screaming into the void or what?
Oh, it was definitely screaming into the void. Initially, it was essentially nothing. It was a really gradual climb. Like, I think like anybody considering doing this and like making any kind of community or money based off of it, like, I really think you have to not get tired or discouraged. Like, it's one sort of myth I see surrounding YouTube a lot, that there's like some formula you can hit to just like get the algorithm just right and make it go viral immediately, and like there are like channels devoted to telling you how you too can have 1 million subscribers within the year. And it's simply not going to happen. Like, it might, but it won't, like, you have to assume that it's not going to happen and be satisfied with the response that you get, whatever that may be. And, believe enough in the project that you're pursuing, that not having 1 million subscribers within your first year or like going super viral for your first video, like, you can't rely on that. It's just not going to happen. Even if there was that kind of formula, it's so much better to like build and sustain a community of people who are really into what you're doing.
Definitely.
It's much, much better to have. I mean, even just, to be really cynical about it, even just financially, my channel's really small, but but the ratio of subscribers to money I make on Patreon is super high, because people value what I do, and that, I think if you can get to that point, that's enough encouragement for me to have just like a few people saying, I need you to make more videos, please. Like, there's no better feeling.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you were saying that one of your old videos recently like got a huge spike. I mean, I just looked at it. It's almost at like 1 million views, right?
Yeah, it'll hit 1 million before too long, I think. And yeah, no, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I uploaded a video a couple months ago. I think what happened is that like, I don't know, that increased the attention to that older video, which was already the top viewed on my channel, and then it just blew up. But like, that's what I mean. Like, it's for no reason, and no reason at all. That video is a year old. That doesn't make any sense at all. So much of it is just luck. It's just luck, you can make awesome videos every time it's a banger and just get no response because the algorithm doesn't know what to do with you. And, you need to be okay with that. And like it's a platform that's so obsessed with engagement and it, as a marker of success, and you just can't fall into that trap.
Right.
One of the things that happened with that video, because I sort of lightly criticize sort of shallow Hollywood identity politics in that video, a bunch of like edgelords decided that I was going to be, their like conservative horror e-girl. I don't know what they thought. But so like I kept getting like, I started getting comments that were pretty disturbing to me, and just in the sense that like I don't want these people to like what I do, honestly. I don't want people who are gonna comment, wow, you're really smart for a woman, and think that's a compliment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I mean, so I do like a little cost benefit analysis, and yeah, people will see what they want to see. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I had to do a little cost benefit analysis, and made a quick little video that made all of my all of my political views very clear. Just not in the sense of like you have to think like me, otherwise you're garbage, but just like it's I'm not conservative.
Yeah.
Like and if you have certain ideas about women, about racial minorities, about LGBT people, then you're not welcome here. Goodbye. Yeah, I think there's a certain level of integrity that you should have about that kind of thing.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. You got to stand up for the values versus just like farming numbers again.
Yeah, because I mean, presumably that's why we're doing this in the first place. Participating in the new media world is because we want to say something of value and, express how we as individuals see the world. I don't know, just like the sort of number and engagement game that social media makes you play, I think kind of discourages that in a big way, which is a real shame because new media is the biggest lowering of barrier to entry to the media world that maybe ever has happened.
Definitely, yeah.
Where like you have basically a movie studio in your pocket. You can get like cheap ass microphones that sound really good, and and you can write out all your own stuff and make whatever you want to make. Oops, I just hit the microphone. And put it on the internet, and that's it. That's all you have to do to self-publish right now. And that's great. That's revolutionary for good and bad.
Yeah. So are you doing all of that? Are you doing the editing and like every part of the process yourself? That's wild.
Yeah.
How did you learn to do that? Like, how did you learn to edit and like learn about audio stuff? Or
well, I did go to film school. So, but it's hard to say how much of that is just like I taught myself because it was interesting to me. I'm sure film school, pointed me in the right direction. So like, editing software was not scary at all when I decided to make videos. It was already very intuitive for me. So that wasn't a big deal. But is that worth going to film school over? I kind of doubt it. You could find out everything you need to know on the internet,
Right. So when you say you went to film school, does that mean like your bachelor? Like what was your study? Because film school can mean a lot of different things, I feel like.
It can, yeah. I went to the University of Arizona, and the way that their film school operated then, there were 3 tracks. You could do the MFA, which is like actual film school for people who want to be directors, and you have to like make your student film as your capstone or whatever. There is a producer track, for people who obviously like want to be producers or agents or be in the pre-production and finance world. And then there was what I did, which was film studies, which was basically for people who want to go to grad school and people who want to have a decent understanding of both. So I had to take production classes and I had to take producing classes and a bunch of theory. One of my big grievances with academic film studies is that it pays very little attention overall to money and to business practices, which I think is so bonkers because film is a multi-billion-dollar international industry, you know?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, so many film academics just treat movies as though they're like the product of a single person, the way a book is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, at my university, because I got a film minor, I didn't study film, but it like our film school was very hands off. Like a lot of what we did was just like watch movies and talk about them, but like never really. I mean, there was an editing class and like a camera class, but it was very hands off, and I don't think it really prepared any. I don't think anyone I graduated with in film school is doing film. So
Yeah. No, and you know, from what I understand, like, yeah, the University of Oklahoma film school system is very much geared toward academic understandings of film, which I think are already lacking. You know, there's still like this sort of feeling in the air of in a lot of academic film departments that film is basically like the dumb younger brother of literature. You know, it's like what you know, upstart fools think that they're gonna study. It's not serious, you know. Like my master's is, for example, it's a master's in English. It's not a master's in film. It's a master's in English with a concentration in film, as though they have anything to do with each other. You know, they're both storytelling, fine, but like film is different. It's like it runs under different rules. It's a collaborative process. There's a lot of money involved. I think you have to understand something about, you know, the sort of superstructure of the way society directs things that have a lot of money involved in order to have any kind of valuable insight about what film does.
yeah, one thing I was talking to another guest about was like one of my favorite things about new media is like there's so much room for trial and error versus film, because you can like make a video for nothing, and if it sucks, then you just make another video. Versus if you make a movie and it sucks, that's a very expensive mistake.
Yeah, you've potentially ruined many people's careers.
Yeah.
For anybody who might be listening to this thinking that they want to go into film studies, like I think that's a really ripe area in film studies for really good research to be done, like how the economic reality of being a filmmaker in the Hollywood system or outside the Hollywood system affects how movies are made, and also just like the sort of emotional impact involved in all of that. That like there's so much pressure in the film industry to do a good job and make a return on investment, you know, and I think that's like really ignored in academic film studies, to its severe detriment. Like nobody's going to take academic film studies seriously if it doesn't acknowledge that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when I've been on movie sets and it's just so stressful because, you know, it's a $300 million movie and everyone's just stressed because that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. Meanwhile, I'm making like $30 an hour or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I would love to see some research on that, because I've never really seen research about film. Like I've never seen like research of like this is trends of like high budget versus low budget productions. Like
people are doing it and writing about it, but nobody sees it ever, because it's all in journals that are behind paywalls. You know, really exorbitant paywalls too. Like I mean, if you want to read an academic book or even just an academic article, and you just want to access it, like you want to Google it, you type it into Google and just like see the text, you're gonna have to pay like $60 at least, you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
So I would love to touch base on, like, you mentioned previously that one of your inspirations was Every Frame a Painting, which is a YouTube channel I also just love. Are there any other channels like that kind of inspired your process?
Yeah, Every Frame a Painting is really great. The Nerd Writer was really big at that point. Lindsay Ellis was just coming up. Folding Ideas is really great. He's really great. He just posted a new video yesterday. He posts pretty infrequently, but they're always like tippy top quality. Like you know, I don't know what his educational background is, but he's an incredibly good media researcher. People with no apparent credentials at all are doing work that is every bit as insightful and well researched as anything coming out of out of academia. And I think that part of that is the sort of lack of oversight and the kind of decentralized nature of, individual media creation, where you're not having to. I mean, you're still, if you're optimizing for, view count and exposure and whatever, like you still have to keep that in mind. But it's the same for academic work. You have to structure your own career path with pretty serious consideration toward, what research is lacking and what people have done before and what's going to seem exciting and employable to you.
You used to do acting, right?
Yeah, you knew. Yeah.
But I remember you saying that you realized that you did not enjoy, or you did not want to be an actor. You didn't want to pursue that. But I find it interesting that doing YouTube, it's similar but different. So can you elaborate a little?
Yeah, there's still a certain degree of performance on YouTube for sure, and I get enjoyment out of that in the same way that I got out of acting back in the day. But the difference is that it's all my stuff. Like the thing that really disillusioned me about acting is that I'm kind of a narcissist, and
I wouldn't know anything about that with the Mike show,
No, I don't think anybody else in the film industry would know anything about chronic narcissism and how. My issue with acting, what I was not getting out of it was the fact that I would have to be performing other people's work, and if I chose that as a career, I would have very little control over what jobs I was and was not interested in taking.
Right.
What interests me about acting is the character work and the little granular details about how you can turn a character into one thing or another just based off a performance or based off a direction of a performance. That's so interesting to me. But not everything is well written. And you don't believe in everything that comes across your desk as an actor. I know that from talking to actors. You really have to love the process itself, and I don't. So the only way that I can feel good and get fulfillment out of performance is if it's my own stuff. And I think that's pretty common amongst all YouTubers. I think that it's part of making an engaging video is kind of performing your script. You have to make it seem like it's not a script, and there's performance in that. I think at the beginning it can feel a little dishonest. That's just the nature of filmmaking, which is at its core what YouTube is. It's just tiny little films, and you have to make it engaging. You have to make people want to watch it, and you have to believe in what you're saying enough yourself, and be excited enough about it yourself that it comes through. That's the affect thing. People don't care about stuff that they're being told if it's not clear that the person telling them cares about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of education. That's what every good college professor does.
Yeah. So do you ever get in moments where you're having trouble finding that excitement? And if so, how do you find that? How do you get excited about something? Or
yeah, I have problems with that all the time, and when the excitement isn't there, I simply don't make videos, which is
work.
Yeah, I hesitate to call it bad. It's not bad. It's just, the reality of whatever my creative process is. But it's certainly metrically bad. YouTube doesn't like it when you don't have a consistent upload schedule. Part of sustaining a good community that's responsive to you, you have to sort of gain momentum and keep momentum, and that's a challenge. That's certainly a challenge that I'm running into now, where now that YouTube is making me a little bit of money and getting a little bit of attention, it would be foolish to not pursue that, see where that takes me and see where that takes my work. I don't think that there's really any getting that excitement back in a forced way if it's not there. Like, you just have to give yourself like space to rest and space to, you know, think about things that do interest you at that point, and then it always comes back, you know, but it can't be forced, for sure.
It seems like it'd be better to put out one high quality video than 4 shit videos in a month, especially because it's like you're saying, you're trying to maintain a community of people who are interested in certain things and have certain values of like what they're trying to explore in the media world. And if you're just like throwing out videos to farm views, it seems like that would be long term like counterproductive, I would think.
Exactly. Yeah. I do think that it's that's its own bad marketing strategy, you know, to just put out videos just to have something on there. I mean, there are a lot of channels that do that and that are extremely successful doing that. But I question how fulfilling it is for them and how invested their audience is, you know. And I mean, you know, it's whatever. If there's just in it for money, that's fine.
Nothing wrong with money.
Nothing wrong with money. But you know, I think that if you're trying to, if you think video essays might sound fun to you and you want to do that, I think it's a really bad idea to sacrifice any kind of, integrity you feel about your own work, just because another way might get you more views. It's, you know, like I said, you might not be, if you do that, you might not be courting the audience that you want to have in the end, you know. Like, I think that's how you end up. I think gaining success in that way is how a lot of creators end up feeling very alone, you know, and kind of depressed about their work.
Right.
And, you know, I'm trying to avoid that. I don't need that. So.
That's good. Yeah. To prioritize not being depressed versus getting millions of views.
Yeah.
Could you like just go over a little bit about like the process of making video essays? Like, how much time do they take to write? How much time do they take to film, edit? Like, what's the timeline in like making one of these videos? I'm sure there's like, it changes depending on the topic and stuff.
It changes drastically depending on a lot of things. I think the video I made about Pennywise the Clown had a 10-day turnover. I started writing it and had the video done 10 days later. Great.
Wow.
You know, I think that's the fastest turnaround I've had. I've been putting up more recently little smaller episodes that don't take as long, which I think is good. The algorithm likes it. And it chases away the edgelords, which is always great. But like, there are a couple videos. I made a video about Run, Hide, Fight last year around this time, and I think that took about 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had to rewatch it a few times. Life got in the way. I just like didn't have the time to sit down and really like sort out my thoughts and feelings about it. You know, I think for me, like, because I make like analytic video essays that often deal with like aspects of sort of human psychology and anthropology, and you know, that's kind of what has informed my research. So it's what informs my videos. And so when I'm into something and I know I want to make a video about something, it's because it's like triggered a puzzle solving module in my brain, I guess, where like something has interested me because I don't get it. You know, I think that's why I'm into horror in the first place, is because I don't get it, you know, like it scares me and I don't know why. And so I have to like sit there and figure out why and figure out like the all of the ins and outs about like why this is affecting me in a way that I have no control over, you know. And so like like with that Run, Hide, Fight video, something was really weird about it, like that, like and you know, of course it had something to do with it being produced by the Daily Wire, which is a propaganda outlet and whatever. Like, obviously that has something to do about it. But like, I was trying to look at the video as like its own thing. And like, you know, if we separate this from propaganda, like, what is it doing? What is it saying? Like, it's really weird. It's a really weird movie and I couldn't figure out why. So it just like, it took a long time to sit down and think about, all of the ideologies that went into it, how every bizarre decision made in that movie is sort of reflective of the propaganda crisis that the Daily Wire finds itself in, that like, the solution to that puzzle is that the Daily Wire is marketing itself as like an answer to Hollywood, a conservative answer to Hollywood, but they're really bad at doing that because Hollywood is already pretty ideologically conservative. That like
that's like the Daily Wire is like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and all their that crowd, right? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just like, you get the feeling that like I know that these are not guys who like movies very much, it doesn't seem like they watch very many movies, because like, there's all this fuss about like, oh, Hollywood is so leftist. Hollywood is, putting all this woke propaganda into movies and, that may be, but it's cynical every time. It's almost never sincere. The only sort of sincere, sustained ideology in Hollywood is already basically conservative propaganda. That's every single action movie, every single action movie.
Yeah, I mean,
is basically
number one movie of the year, Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. I mean, liberal Hollywood. Can you believe it? You know what I mean? Like, silly. And so the Daily Wire, went out to make this movie that like, their tagline for it was that like they want to make movies that you want to see, not that you feel like you have to see because it's conservative. But like in the process of making a movie that people would want to see, they basically just made a normal action movie. And like it's so strange. It's such a bizarre artifact, and it took a long time, but it was a lot of fun to think about. So
it's so interesting because I usually don't watch movies. I kind of tune out politics a lot of the time. I don't like watch the news, and so when I watch a movie, I oftentimes don't even consider the political nature of it, and then I listen to people like you and some of my other friends that are a lot more politically inclined talk about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that was what that was about, but okay. Yeah, it's like it's interesting because it seems like there's almost like no way to make art outside of politics and social culture.
Yeah, you can't. It's impossible. There isn't. No, I think that anybody who makes a story with and it's like this sort of like the horseshoe theory of where like I come all the way back around and say something that like sounds like it agrees with the Daily Wire. That like I really think that if you are constantly considering politics over good storytelling, then you're gonna have a shit movie. I think that but the reasons I think that is completely different from the reasons they think that. I'm really suspicious about like performative representation of women and non-white people in Hollywood. Because I just don't think it makes for very good art. It's too self-aware. It's part of why I like horror. Again, that I think that serious, heavy, political issues are a lot better addressed through abstraction. Because like when you're in it, when you're in the middle of a trauma, you don't really understand what's happening. There's no way to construct it into a like comfortable hero's journey.
Right.
And I think to do that is dishonest and disingenuous and damages discourse, but like a couple days ago I saw Barbarian, which is so good, and which is a pretty transparent but very elegantly done metaphor for sexual abuse, visited upon women by men. That's a really heavy topic, but they made it scary and funny and engaging, and it's a good story. And because it's a good story, the politics come through.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you're kind of saying that by promoting good stories, they're actually achieving their political goals better than if they were just like shipping political goals for the sake of doing it.
I think that's the only reason art exists,
Right.
And I think that, to kind of purposefully distort a good story for what you think is the appropriate political outlook I think that's counter to everything that art is trying to do, you know. I think that's part of the reason that I really don't see a whole lot of difference between the propaganda of the Daily Wire and, the cynicism of Hollywood representation. They're both doing it for different reasons, but, it's still ideological. For the Daily Wire, it's ideological conservatism, and for Hollywood, it's ideological capitalism. They're trying to make money,
Right. Yeah, man, that's something that I've seen even like moderates and liberals get annoyed with, is when it just seems so forced. It's like, we're putting minorities in this movie because we know that's what you want, not because we want to put minorities in this movie.
Yeah, whatever quadrant we're trying to sell this to really responds to this kind of representation, which basing your storytelling and your movies off focus groups and like test audiences, I think that's its own. People don't know what they want to see. That's what art is supposed to do. Art is supposed to be like a sort of projection of things about the human experience and the human condition that are kind of impossible to describe with words. Like, that's what storytelling does. It fills in the gaps between lapses in communication. So, if you're approaching it with a specific message that you want to send, and like a lesson, like, hard and fast lesson about how to behave in the world, you're approaching it in the wrong way, I think.
So how do you, and this is a very, I feel like this is a big question, but how do you make these movies that tell these stories of minorities and underrepresented groups without just spoon feeding them? Like, are there, like, I'm thinking like movies like Prey and like other things that seem less spoon fed and like actually telling stories, but
I haven't seen Prey yet.
Oh, you haven't? I really liked it.
I know. I need to. I have a whole list. It's hard, but I think story is king, and that's it. That like God, it's hard to articulate. But I think that a lot of what goes through the sort of Hollywood machine and comes out of it is that, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of filmmakers, at least on the producing end, are starting to confuse metrics for a good reflection of what people want and what is successful. The failure that comes out of an art industry that's run by business people, not artists. There has to be room for mistakes and room for flops and room for experimentation. And if you do that, I'm not convinced that that's necessarily an economic failure, or that it's going to guarantee an economic failure. We very seldomly are aware of the classics of our era. The video of mine that kind of went viral last month is kind of about that when The Thing came out in 1984, it was kind of trashed by critics, and it came out the same week as E.T., and so like it was a huge disappointment. It was a huge financial loss, and now it's one of the most beloved like horror cornerstone movies that we have. There's so much in it that's reflective of the time period it was made in that we didn't have any perspective to recognize at the time. And I think we lose a lot if the film industry isn't allowing for that kind of thing to happen. And it kind of ruined John Carpenter's career at that point. He had to make kind of left to the limelight. It was always sort of treated with suspicion because he made this movie that was supposed to be a huge hit and completely failed. So,
right. The Fog was great though. That was him, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even have to, where I'm just saying things and not peer reviewing. I know you're like super into like horror. What kind of movies like really drive your interest, like other than horror? Are you genre specific, or is it just kind of like a good story is a good story to you and you're up for whatever?
a good story is a good story to me, but I mean, the reason I like horror is because I think it's saying something really honest, no matter what time period it's made in, no matter who's making it. I think that horror deals in areas of like again, like things we don't understand about ourselves and the way that we react. And I think that you can sort of peer into the soul of mankind if you analyze horror, looking for kind of reflections of the era. Like every generation has like a defining horror genre, and so like in the 70s and 80s, it was slashers. In the early 2000s, it was torture porn with like Saw and Hostel and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Today, because we have all this political turmoil and ecological threat, it's existential. We've seen a lot of existential horror right now, which is so interesting to just like get some kind of idea of how people are thinking about themselves and the world around them. Like, even the fact that like we're kind of in a horror golden age right now should say something about the state of,
right,
of people's minds right now.
It's like horror movies are a nice escape from real life. It's a pleasant world.
Yeah. As far as other genres, like by that same token, kids movies and kids shows, I love them.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like for this is gonna sound weird, but like for similar reasons, because like kids shows are almost always like addressing really deep human realities through abstraction, and I think that's a big part of the reason our generation, the sort of millennials who were told that we were going to have the world growing up and then can barely pay rent into our 30s, I think that's why our sort of genre of choice is basically kids shows but made for adults, like BoJack Horseman, Big Mouth, Rick and Morty, like all of these
like adult
animations. Yeah. Which is basically doing the same thing as kids shows, just for adults with adult jokes instead. So yeah, kids movies and kids shows in general, like always when they're made well and thoughtfully, and they often are, because kids shows really are a labor of love. They don't make a lot of money, they can, I think, be really kind of profound in that way. But I mean, I also love big, like, action adventure blockbusters. I love some of the Marvel movies, love them so much. I just did a big deep dive into the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
I watched those videos because that video came out like literally right after I just watched all 5 Pirates. So it was very interesting timing. Didn't you release that video somewhere around the Johnny Depp whole trial?
I did, yeah, toward the end, yeah.
That was an interesting time.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that the algorithm might bless me for having talked about Johnny Depp so close to that trial, but it didn't. That's okay. Oh, that video had an extremely quick turnaround. I sat down and watched that first movie and just like started writing notes just because it was interesting, and then kept watching the movies and just had like 10 pages of notes and was like, let's make a video. Let's sit down and just like chit chat about it. And that was really, really fun. And that took about a week.
Do you think the rum helped your workflow a little bit?
No, rum never helped. The rum was completely performative and just so I could have something to do with my hands. I'm a horrible drinker.
Yeah, fair. Somebody
in the comments pointed out that I had like 2 shots and what weak sauce that was, and I was like, listen, man, there's only so much I can do.
Right, you didn't have any mega pints.
I didn't.
Yeah, I really liked that. I think that was one of the first videos I really like sat down and watched of yours, and I really liked it. I thought it was a very in-depth exploration of the Pirate series.
Thank you. Yeah, it was the first one that I put on Instagram.
Do you see any other like goals for your content, like branching out to like streaming or doing more short form? Or
yeah, I think more short form stuff is definitely in the future, just to get more of a consistent upload schedule, to be honest. Like that's pretty important to keep people sort of engaged and interested in. I'm worried a little bit about how it might affect the kind of I hate it so much, the branding of my channel. If I started in horror and I'm now studying sort of like anthropology of social media. How is that going to change how people see my channel? I don't know. I've decided, fuck it, like whatever. Let's just make what I like. And, people seem to be there for it. And I think that's really all you can do. I think you can really paralyze yourself thinking about what's going to be optimized for the algorithm. I started a Discord channel for patrons. I mean, oh my God, talk about a, Gen Z platform. I was so scared setting up that Discord channel. I felt like such a boomer. Like, oh my God, how does this work? And it's not hard. Like, Discord is not a difficult platform to understand, but it's just weird how, like, I mean, you can be just like a few years older than like the target audience for all these platforms, and it just becomes like so mysterious to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel with TikTok all the time.
Yeah. So the other day, me and my producer, I have a producer who is a friend of mine. Like, producer makes it sound like a lot more formal than it actually is. Mostly he just, tells me to keep on my bullshit and make me stick to schedules and, read my work over so that it's not just me trying to decide if this thing that I've worked so hard on is worth posting at all. So on Discord last week, he and I hosted a live stream of Nope and like did a commentary about it. And that was a lot of fun. I'm going to do more of that for sure.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. And now that the community is starting to grow a little bit and there's, I can go to Discord and there's enough people there that, I can, chit chat in it about whatever I happen to be watching. And there's all these people who are, who want to talk about it. That's great. So much fun. I feel like that's kind of the core of new media is like, and like the key to enjoying it is that like, as long as it's fun for you, then that's great. You should stop doing it as soon as it stops being fun for you.
Definitely. Yeah, that's every single one of these interviews. The guest has said something along those lines that like the only thing that really keeps them going is that they're enjoying it. And the second they stop, they usually like take a break or don't make that video or don't make that post because it's just like it's a marathon, not a sprint. You can't just start posting like crazy just to try to feed the algorithm, feed the YouTube gods.
Yeah. And it really sucks because that's very much what YouTube wants you to do. And I think that, drives a lot of the toxicity that exists on YouTube as well. When people behave sort of cynically and act kind of money hungry on YouTube, it's because YouTube wants them to, like it's kind of weird to me that people deflect that blame from the platform and onto its users. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, because, that's YouTube's agenda. It wants people to watch YouTube all day long, as often as possible.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a very insightful conversation, and I really appreciate you giving all your insight to the YouTube world and like the movie stuff, and yeah, thanks for having me. No, it's fun to talk about it. It's a really weird time to be in any kind of media industry. I feel like it was pretty stable for quite a few decades in the 20th century, and now, I mean, anything having to do with media is in a real transitional period right now. So it's very, very hard to predict what it's going to look like in the future and what any of us are going to be doing in the extended years. It's a good time to stay flexible for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you plug yourself? Give us all your handles so that people can follow your stuff.
If I can remember them all, yeah. Let's see. So my channel is the Morbid Zoo on YouTube. If you type in the Morbid Zoo in the search bar, it will appear and you can follow me there. I am Bookeeper123 on Twitter and Mariana Colin 1 on Instagram. I don't typically plug my Instagram. It's a very personal thing, but because of transitioning to the film industry, I don't think it will be a personal thing in the near future. So I might as well plug that too. But yeah, follow me there if you want to see what I do.
Nice, yeah. And you also have a Patreon, right?
Oh yeah, I do have a Patreon. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go to Patreon and give Mariana money.
And give me some of your money. That'd be great. Yeah. We didn't even touch upon copyright. Yeah. My thing video that went viral last month has made me to date $0.00 because it's copyrighted.
Crap. What's copyrighted? Like music or
no, just movie footage.
But I thought you can use
you can't.
if it.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
It sucks.
Yeah, they've illegally copyrighted me, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's the nature of YouTube right now, and the nature of new media.
Well, definitely go to her Patreon so that she can get more money.
Yeah.
And everyone blow up John Carpenter's social media so that we can fight this.
Make him give me personal permission for me to use this movie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariana. This has been great.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me. This is fun.
Thanks so much for listening. I want to give a shout out to my sponsor, Media U, and my producer, Natalie Roman. And if you're interested in staying tuned for more podcasts, feel free to follow us on YouTube, or you can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.